Welcome to Be the Person podcast. I'm excited for you to hear from today's guest, Jennifer Kennedy Smith. She's a transformational leader, a holistic healer, and has over 26 years of executive, sales, and leadership experience. Today, she's a yoga teacher, Ayurvedic practitioner, and a transformational life coach. She helps others discover themselves and walk through a healing journey. We had a great conversation all about burnout, how to prevent it, what to do if you're in it, and really how to take care of yourself. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious, for people ready to explore their true potential. I'm your host, Annie Randall. Join me and let's get ready to go on this journey together. Welcome to Be the Person podcast. I cannot wait for you to hear from today's guest, Jennifer Kennedy Smith. She's a transformational coach. She has her own amazing story that she's going to share and how she used that to not only transform herself, but now to help hundreds of other people. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Annie. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to share with today's audience because I think what you went through, a lot of people will resonate with, and I think they can relate. But you said before we started recording, like you are the person now that you wish you had. And I just love that because you really found yourself struggling with so much chronic stress, fatigue, high cortisol, and you discovered how to heal your body. Can you just share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I love speaking in the wellness market, the wellness industry, because I've been on this journey of what felt like emotional healing, mental healing. And then as I started to feel better in my heart and in the knowing of who I am, my body still was not in alignment. And I'll bring us back to the pandemic. And I was working I used to work in IT hardware software. I was a sales leader. It was a grueling marketplace. I had very much grown into loving work, found a huge identity around work and my worth, which I don't recommend because it's always outside of you. You're always searching for the next promotion, the next title, a bigger W-2. And if the world shows up with a pandemic, sometimes the thing you're looking for isn't in alignment, and then you feel pretty bad. So I'm working for a startup. We're online. The world's closed. So I literally signed my contract at the end of February, and 2.5 weeks later, March 15th, the world closed. And the company was already virtual. So they were definitely ahead of the curve of where people that were trying to go to an office and then couldn't. We already had this space set up in my home office, and we ended up being on Zoom calls for 14 hours a day and performing at a very high accelerated rate to not just perform for the company for the numbers that we committed to bringing in, but also the federal government, the civilian agencies were my patch. So we worked and worked and worked, and there wasn't a lot of self-care at the time because there was this superhero moment of we're going to get through the pandemic and we're going to do all the right things. And our company that March had declared that they were going to go public that fall, or set the intention, we'll say. And it didn't happen that year. It actually took another full year to get there, they did go public. But working in that type of cadence, oh my gosh, I remember being so triggered when I first started there because all of the communication tools that we had to ensure that we were online all the time that was available, whether it was your phone, your Zoom, we had Slack Messenger, and there was always alarms and alerts going off. And we worked async with the team across the globe to keep things moving forward. So it was super high stress, super high tension, lots of expectations, lots of hiring people and firing people. And there was never really a break. And in this time frame, as I'm sitting all day, I remember putting in my phone notes, I feel like shit in my body. And I couldn't tell you what had changed. And in hindsight, I was sitting, I was eating, I was not moving. It still had my yoga practice, but it wasn't what I lost was my physical strength training. I have a Peloton at home. I stopped riding the bike. There wasn't enough time. So I'm now in high cortisol, high stress, not getting enough sleep, not getting space from the work machine that I built in my home office. My kids were also home. My kids were home from school for that first year and a half. And I remember they'd come to the door. My door has glass on it. And so they would like try to like come in here and have a conversation and be like under my desk in like seventh and eighth grade or something and fighting with each other. And as soon as I hit like record or opening on the Zoom, I'd be like, you won't have to be quiet. So stress from dealing with children during a pandemic and helping manage their emotions. It was just a shit show. I mean, we all remember. And it wasn't until I saw a video from a Ayurvedic healer and practitioner, Kate Stillman, who I had, oh, by the way, had her books that never read them. And she was talking about the inflammation in the body and how when we have chronic inflammation, it's the stem, it's the root of disorder and disease. And I'm like, I wonder if I have something wrong with my body. I had been so obsessed with emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness through my yoga journey, but I hadn't done a whole lot. My body had always been in pretty good shape. I worked out every day. I won't say I didn't work for it. It wasn't like a gift. I worked out every day and moved my body in a way that was somewhat obsessive at different peaks and valleys of my life. I found a big identity of myself based on how I looked, how the world would feed back to me. What did I look like? So I always had a good size body with muscle, but during this time I wasn't moving in a way that I know served me the best. So I pick up Kate's book, and the first couple sections in her book are really jarring and really triggering to me because she's completely honest. There's no fluff. One thing she says is, "Stop putting shit in your pie hole. Like you eat too much. Stop eating so much." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so rude." But it's as I'm snacking between meetings and not having a full meal, I'm just finding what felt the fastest way I could get back online, back to this reward system that we have with business and in the sales arena. So I end up taking her course. We do an Ayurvedic detox, which is liquids and fat. And she teaches me from Indian medicine how fat is actually love to the body. And this is like ghee, avocado, your nuts, your good oils, not cookies and cake and fat. So we're on this liquid detox for the first week, and then we bring in fats and something called khichdi, which is mung bean and basmati rice, and it's very bland, be like baby food for us. Very bland, but super easy to digest. And so when you're in chronic stress, you don't want heavy digestion or the demand on the body because the body's already stressed. And a big meal at the end of, say, a big meal at 8 o'clock at night is putting stress on the body. So I start learning all these ancient protocols to heal from inflammation, eating earlier, going to bed earlier, not having a full stomach when you go to bed, fasting. So, including with this detox, I get a lot of space in my body. I lose 14 pounds in 3 weeks. I didn't know I had 14 pounds to lose. I was floored and excited and like, holy wow, I look amazing. I wasn't as strong, I'd say, as I would have normally been lifting because there was definitely a depletion of calories. But for healing the inflammation and tuning into this intuition of what does my body actually need was a huge wake-up call that I never had before. So while I'm doing this work, just before I started the Ayurvedic detox and the fasting and these new healthy habits, I ran my blood work. I was perimenopause. I had been diagnosed for the first time in my life with low-performing thyroid, so hyperthyroid, chronic stress fatigue, high cortisol. And my doctor's like, "Oh, what is it costing you? What is this work, this job you're doing costing?" I'm like, "I can't quit it. I'm a single mom. My whole identity's wrapped around this role and this work. Been in that business. I retired. I left it after 26 years. So this was probably 24 years into it. And I was floored that the doctor would suggest I should do something different and give up my whole life because my body's in chronic inflamed stress. And I wasn't in a place of owning my self-worth enough to go, wow, it doesn't have to cost me my wellness just for this role in a career. I won't say it's just a job. It seemed like so much more to me at the time. So I had a lot of disorder going on, a lot of literally disease in my body. The precursor to all disease is inflammation. So whether it's autoimmune or the full-blown C word, you got inflammation. How is your stress? In addition to the stress load, another identification is what we call in Ayurveda, the Sanskrit is the language, it's called ama, undigested food. We eat way too much food in this country. A lot of that food is numbing and addictive and food noise. We all know about that buzzword today. So we're just satiating ourselves, filling ourselves completely unconscious to something happened. I don't feel good. Let me go shove something in my mouth. It's like if we had a pacifier, and that's what we're doing as if we were babies with the thing, the handful of mine used to be cheese nips or the kids' goldfish or wasn't always sweet, but I always crave that salty, which is going to be a sign of there's an imbalance in your thyroid because the mineral deficiency. I'm not getting enough mineralization in my body. So I now become obsessed versus the first healing protocols of my emotional and mental life was the yoga. So I'm obsessed with that spiritual path. And now it's the physical path. And guess what? They're all intertwined. And it came back to really understanding and unveiling the problem was me. The problem was my lack of authority and discipline over my body and what I need. And instead of sitting in a chair all day and working for the man to get a paycheck and an ad girl to feel good about myself, I could just decide where are my values, what are my morals, what's important. Well, my values and my morals are to take care of my body so I can be the most amazing mom, first and foremost, and take care of this body so I can have longevity, so I can live longer. Right. So when we reset the alignment, what's actually running your life. And I was not running my life. Everything else was running my life. I was literally like an atta girl. I would take all the assignments and do them, right? A gal Friday, they used to call it, right? I was literally like an admin for the company, even though I'm in an executive leadership role, certainly not leading anything, much less myself. I'm just the doer, the human doer versus today, after reclaiming authority over my sovereignty, I am the human being. I am being who I'm called to be. So I don't even know if that answers the question. I feel like I just went down a rabbit hole, but that kind of what happened in the realm of my body just was falling apart. I literally felt broken. And I had to come back to the truth and tell the truth that the problem was me, not my job, not my kids, not just the food, not enough time. It was me in all facets of it.
So, no, appreciate you answering that. And I think it's super helpful to understand because maybe people don't get to quite that level, but I think a lot do, honestly, of what happens then? So you start to realize this job and this lifestyle is basically costing you your health and you feeling like you're being a great mom to your kids. What are some steps that you take to reclaim values, maybe set boundaries? I know you eventually step out of this career,
Yeah.
but how long did you stay in there and how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So I had started teaching yoga in 2015. Yoga literally just saved my life. I was in such an emotional turmoil and an identity crisis, a rock bottom, truly. And the physical somatic release of yoga literally helped me start healing from the inside out. A lot of emotional trauma, just unprocessed, unknown. And because of that time, I had started teaching right away. So just to give somebody the idea that the transition wasn't night and day. It wasn't like I just quit my job. I had a side hustle with this healing practice and teaching yoga and yoga retreats. And after the Ayurvedic coaching, I got certified as an Ayurvedic practitioner. So I had then a whole offering around coaching, around wellness. Called the program at the time was called Awakening to Your Highest Self. All of that. So that was 2015. I resigned in 2022. Like this wasn't an overnight, but this was a deep calling of me coming home to my truth and what I truly desire, which I've always wanted to help people in navigating their life and to fall in love with themselves. Like that was my own personal victory for me to be able to get to that place when I used to look in the mirror and literally hated myself. And it's so bizarre to even say that out loud because I look back like that seems so foreign, but I lived there for a long time until yoga helped me heal. So with that being said, the 9-year, 10-year transition, what was also happening is the demands at work were less, they seemed a little comical. They like everyone else was still in this high stress, high performing, getting their accolades external. And I've been doing the healing work on me. You can't spiritually bypass the spiritual journey of healing. You can't just read the book. We were talking earlier, like it's not a linear healing. You can't wish it away. You can't. I tried to go to hypnotherapy and I thought she could erase my memory and I could like start again. I mean, it sounds so corny, but I was so desperate for the pain to go away so I could feel good. And the reality is, you've got to do the work. It's the deep work. It's the therapy. It's the family trauma patterns. It's the letting go and forgiveness. It's the surrendering and the softening. And for me, this has been a 12-year journey, but worth it because each segment, each iteration gets easier and better and softer and more loving. So at one point in where the company was going public, there was such incredible demands in regards to how we led the team. And I was being asked things that didn't align morally to my own values in the corporate role. And it just got to a place where it was like, enough is enough. I'm not well. I've sacrificed so much of my own vitality, my own wellness. I finally get my health back to what feels good, but I'm no longer in sync. I'm no longer aligned to the company. And here's the thing, and this is why I love working for me, is I set the values and the standards and I align. And I wouldn't be able to go back and work for somebody else at this point unless their values and standards were in alignment to mine. So over the years, while I was wanted to have a seamless elevation of my business and a leaving of the corporate role, it didn't quite work that way because I had something else in my personal life come up and it was totally unexpected. So I ended up just having a conversation with my boss one day and said, "This isn't working. I I I I can't work here anymore." And he was surprised and we found a way to separate professionally. I can't think of the right word, like where there was no hard feelings kind of thing. We're still friends to this day. And I've never looked back. And I've never looked back.
I love that. During that time when you're in the corporate world, you're feeling like this isn't aligning with you anymore. How long did that take before you decided to really step out? Because you're in the pandemic, you're doing all these things, and you see it's costing you your health. Was it right away, or was that transition a little bit slower?
I think it was right away. I knew like the higher self, your truth knows. And I mean, have these conversations with yourself. Like I remember I have a notebook here that I saw me mapping out. What is it that I like about the role? What do I not like? And the not like list was much longer than the like. And then what else would I do? And if I did this, what I'm doing today full time, what would I like? And what wouldn't I like? And where were my gaps? I started just for years assess and start looking because the thing is that we're scared. It all comes down to fear. And until there's this new crisis, and it's a lot of times a health or a divorce or something that, or the kids leave in as empty nesting, and you get to this age and you're like, well, what is it costing me to not live in my truth and to have joy and have health? Like when can we own our worth and not believe that it ends with the job? And I'll share one thought. I have a woman I just met with, and she's been in her career. She's probably 8 years older than me and incredibly talented. And in the company she's at, a leader and high performer, and she gets all these accolades and all these awards, and they just let her go with no warning, no like year severance, just this isn't working for us. And there was no merit. But in the where the company is, it's work at will, so they can let her go without any warning. And so she's in her 50s and has to then figure out she's upset because her commitment was to the company, not to herself. And it happens so often. So whether it's the pink slip, the diagnosis, or the relationship, some issue in life, it always is going to come back to us deciding where do I fit and what do I want and what do I need and how do I want to feel and what can I do to take care of myself. So it's just now reparenting role we get to have. If I was a parent of myself and if I was my biggest advocate, how would I take care of myself and what would I decide to do going forward?
I think that's so key because you asked the question, what is it costing me? And I think so many times we're so busy running just from really asking that question, asking how are we feeling, what's going on inside. We just are working for that outside validation. And I don't know if you can relate to that or
100%. My whole life. And when you asked about if people are listening and wondering what does that transition look like, the courage is telling the truth. And you don't need to know the answer of how it's going to change or where do you go next. You just need to listen to your soul that says, this isn't it. So if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. That's the soul speaking. We're souls living in a body, having a human experience. And if the longer we stay out of alignment to what the soul came to this planet to do, the more suffering is going to be. And that can be emotional, mental, physical, or spiritual, or all of it. And I think I had all of it at literally different phases of my life. So it takes just the courage to ask the question, am I happy? And to be brave enough to not. I remember during the pandemic posting on Instagram, I ended up taking it down because I was so embarrassed of like me being in the healing space and not having the answer. But my question was, am I happy? And I knew at the core of me, I wasn't. One, I wasn't in the right career path. Two, it was a freaking pandemic and the whole world was in suffering and panic and fear and scarcity. But if I would have just left it there, because that was the truth at the time for me, I wasn't happy. And then what do I need to do? Listen and to yourself and then take the next inspired action. That may be, maybe you need a new course. Maybe you're ready to have this evolution of 2.0 version of you. Maybe there's a new hobby you take up. Maybe there's a conversation you need to have with your boss or your spouse or your kid or yourself. Maybe your body's not well. It's a conversation with your body. I am so sorry. I haven't cared for you in the way that you deserve. Beautiful body. I'm going to dedicate the next 45 years to be the most kind and loving parent of this body and have a devotion to it instead of a disorder with it and a disregard. Like we just disregard our bodies as if we're promised to have a body for 100 years. Why don't we just have this desire to love and connect to it in the most pure and loving way?
and I think people, if I look and I say, yes, like I want to do that, but I have so much fear around this, what would you say to that person? Like you're on the other side. You took the jump and you had that fear, but you also had the courage to decide to make that change that you knew you needed to make. You're on the other side of that. What advice or what would you tell maybe even yourself at that time when you had all of that fear to move forward?
I think it's the little wins that got me to get to that bigger assessment. The little wins of feeling better in my body, emotionally and mentally. The little wins that I left a really unhealthy marriage. That took me 13 years. I wanted to leave year one. I stayed for 13. We were together for 16 altogether. It took me that long to assess. I just had no confidence in what I wanted and what I needed for forever until I got the courage. Because for the longest time I was assessing, is this who I really am? And is this who I want to be? And I didn't like who I became in that marriage. I just didn't. I wasn't happy. And we at the core of us, we deserve happiness. We are all promised a beautiful life. What we do with that, and whether we fall into the pattern of suffering or to reclaim and step away from it and heal from it, and not let us keep us in that pattern, that's a choice. So the little wins, leaving an unhealthy marriage, and then I went into a whole tailspin of codependency of not knowing who I was. I had never been alone for 30 something years, and I was alone, and I had to. It's like a toddler walking or a baby trying to crawl to walk, like little wins. So I started to build my own confidence. So it doesn't have to be, and I'm not saying to anybody, if you're not happy in your job today, go quit. You got to make a plan and you got to be smart about what you're going to do, because if you don't have a plan and you haven't figured out what do you truly want, you might make the next move that isn't aligned either. Just like in relationships, I left an unhealthy marriage, didn't do my inner work, went out and dated unhealthy people. Like, of course, if we don't know who we are, we end up being like this plastic bag in the wind and we just blow and float and there's no direction because the person given the direction to your life is you. So finding the little wins and celebrating them. This could be at the gym. This could be, I mean, there's a huge celebration I have every morning that I actually got my butt on the yoga mat, or in the evening when I do my workout, when I move my body with the bike or with weights. I celebrate. That's not just a little one, that's a huge win with everything else pulling me in every other direction, and it's just so easy to say, "I'll do it tomorrow." And then when I say I do it tomorrow, and then I have this silent little self-sabotage party because I hate that I quit and I didn't have integrity with a goal that I set to love my body and care for it deeply. So when you do get to the mat, you get to the class and you stay longer, or you're in a plank and you don't drop to your knees and it's like however many minutes you're in there and you're still holding it, that's a huge win. So these wins start to be, instead of just micro, they start to be big wins, and we start to celebrate. What you're doing is you're repairing the integrity with yourself. So all the times that you've quit, all the times that you failed for yourself, that you put somebody else's goals in front of yours, all the times that you said you were going to do something and then just didn't, we're repairing that program. So reclaiming authority over self and finding the ways to celebrate. And so those what feel like little examples, just even at the gym, end up being paramount in the transformation of life. So how many times did you shift into authority over yourself at the gym, with running, with food, with whatever it is? Then when the bigger opportunity comes up, you've already practiced the muscle of courage. It's already there. You've started to master it. And then it's not a big deal. It's just a shift. You're just moving. It's an iteration of life. It's not a catastrophic change, and it doesn't need a total meltdown or a total rock bottom. It's just a change that you've empowered yourself to move through gracefully.
I think that's so good of just those little changes over time really flex that muscle, that
Mm.
courage muscle,
Yeah.
and make us stronger because it's so easy in this society to give, like you said, authority to somebody else, whether it be in a job, a relationship, whatever that is, to not be true to yourself. But when you really take time, like you did, to start listening and reclaiming, like, who is this person I want to be? I think it's so empowering to see.
Yeah, because those times that we fail ourselves, they're like these little assaults to the soul. They don't seem like a big deal, but they're huge because your soul's crying out saying, "This doesn't feel good. I don't want to do this anymore." And we go, well, I'm not going to follow through on that." It's like a big F you to the soul. And I feel like we have to have more integrity than that. This isn't what society's telling you to do, or your parents told you to do, or Cosmopolitan tells you to do, or what my lord, the latest of biohacking is telling me to do. I mean, can we talk about, is it carnivore? Is it keto? Is it all the different things? I'm like, how about I just figure out what feels good for me? Can we just do that? Can we just allow ourselves to listen to the feedback from the body, from the heart, from the soul, and then line up there? That's the win of life. Like, that's the secret. That's the pass. That's what we get to become in full authority. You call it in your sovereignty. You're a spiritual being, and you are empowered to have access to love and connection and health and healing and vitality and all the things. We can't get any of that outside of us. No one is coming to do it for you. So we get to do it step by step, one at a time.
And I just am sitting here listening, thinking, so true. I think everything you need is inside of you. And yet, that also at the same time, while it's easy, it's probably the most difficult thing ever because you have to do the work. Like you said, you have to do the inner work. You have to figure out. I feel like this whole journey of my 40s has, as I go into 50s, has been figuring out exactly who I am and being that person versus just what other people want me to be.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And that's freedom. And it's scary at the same time. Like, I feel like it's almost like I'm not as daring as I think I want to be, even with like my wardrobe. Like, I'd love to dress just like a shaman and wear these beautiful, like flowy, like almost like kimonos, right? I'm not there yet, but in my calling, and I think that's more divine feminine, and that's just the softer side, which has been hanging up my business suit that was very masculine. I was that woman slash performer and producer, very masculine energy for 26 years, and got all of my accolades and all of my meaning from that. And now the meaning and connection comes from me. So as I look forward to who am I becoming next, even softer, even more surrender, less doing, more being, just more presence. And as enticing and as exciting that is, it is still as like a little bit of a rub, a little bit of resistance, but I haven't been that before. And I know I can go back and put a suit on and feel powerful, but the power never came from the suit.
Yeah.
That's the illusion, right? So I welcome you into, I'm a 49, I'll be 50 this year, and I can't wait for us as women to see what does that shift not just look like, but how does that feel and the embodiment of it and the confidence and courage that's going to emanate from it. It's not something that we're having to just build, but it's already there. We just are letting go of all the ways we realize now that we thought we weren't enough. We are, right?
So true. Do you feel like you need an adventure or a new challenge in 2025? Join Jeff and I on our Peru trip. We're going to do a 1-day hike to Machu Picchu. It's always been on my bucket list, but it's becoming more and more restricted. So right now you can still walk around Machu Picchu, but I believe that won't be the case for long. We're also going to explore the Amazon jungle, the city of Lima, have the option to hike Rainbow Mountain. It's going to be a wonderful trip. It happens next September. See all the full details in the show notes. I think it's really empowering, like you said, to like you've been something your whole life. It doesn't mean you have to keep being that thing. It meant really reconnecting with you. And one of the things on your website I loved was you had a daily ritual sheet, and it had all of the things like water and meditation and that you should do, which I honestly love because I'm a checkmark girl. The question it had on there was just put your hands on your heart and just ask yourself, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Can you tell me more about that question of like, how do you do that every day? Because again, when we're listening to this podcast, it seems super easy. But on the day to day, when you have the demands as a parent, in a job, all the things, I think that question alone can be super difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. So the body is always giving us feedback, I think, as well as the soul. And when we take the time to connect, when we can connect to ourselves through the heart. So we handle the heart gives us a physical and energetic connection and a reminder that our the capacity to live and lead from the heart versus from the head. I'm not asking us to go into the brain. I'm asking us to go into the intelligence of the heart. And then when we ask ourselves, what my mantra is always, how do I feel? And then I'll check in. And I want to do this before I'm in a place of triggered reactive. And then I'm like flippant, irritated, frustrated. And then I'm like, well, how did I get here? And it used to seem so like foreign, like how did that, like usually the blames, this person did this and now I feel like this. Very disempowering for us to blame somebody else for how we feel. We need to own and manage our own feelings. So rather than getting spun up into a place where we're triggered and trying to reclaim that power over our emotions and regulate that, if I can ask myself a few times throughout the day, how do I feel? And then I'll listen. And my body for a long time when I was really unwell would say exhausted, tired, irritated, frustrated. And it was really low level emotions from just self-deprecation. I was just depleted, giving, not refilling the cup. Right. So I've done a lot of that healing. We talked about that. In this moment, I'm in menopause. It came on hot and hard and fast, and I had not saw the signs of perimenopause because I was a few years ago still in the corporate world, running. And now I have all this time to actually feel and receive the messages and realize my body needs way more sleep than I ever dreamed of. I have to get myself in bed by 9:30 to be asleep by 10 to get up in time to teach yoga. And that get up time is 6:30 because I'm not a 5 a.m. right now. I would have been 10 years ago because I didn't care about sleep. I would say things like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, as if it was so cheeky and it was so wise. I mean, it was just ridiculous what we've adopted in this never ending hustle culture. So if today I wake up and I say, how do I feel? And I'm exhausted. And then I have to look back and think, well, what time did I get to bed? How was my sleep? What could I do what do I need? Hydration. I grab an element, some electrolytes. I rehydrate, which gives me a nice big boost. And then I can go sit down and get ready to set up my class and make my playlist. But if I didn't know how do I feel, then how would I know what do I need? So these wins we're talking about, just reclaiming power over listening to the feedback of your body. How do I feel? Your body will always say how it feels. And don't argue with it. listen and receive it, and then ask the same pattern is, well, what do I need? And for you, it might be food. It might be a nap. Some days, it hasn't been a while, but there'd be days I'd have to just get on the floor here behind my chair and lay down, not for a nap, but just to ground. If a call was not in the way that I wanted it to go, or something was said that I didn't receive well, lay down, reclaim myself. Where am I? How did that feel? Where do I feel in the body? Can I move through this? What do I need to do with this information? Or maybe you need a walk. Maybe you need to take a nap in the middle of the day, like permission to deeply care for yourself. Or maybe it's work. Maybe you've been in the other side of it. There's been too much napping, too much tiredness that you need to actually move your body. So those questions, how do I feel and what do I need? And then to just be with it and then take that action. You've got the assignment from the body, go do it. And now we're rebuilding respect with the feedback loop. Somebody once said that whereas our bodies are giving feedback, the longer we ignore it, it then gets into a bigger symptom, right? If it's tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, and then we get sick. And then we're like, who made me sick? You made you sick. You stopped. You didn't take the time to put your face in the sun and get your rest and do your walk and have your water. You ran out of energy, or you ran down your immunity. Doesn't always have to be this sort of somebody did this to me. I mean, there's a lot of that reactivity. I still hear it most days. So how do you feel and what do you need? Hand on your heart, and then move with that direction of the body.
So good, because I think, again, so many times, one, we don't take the time to ask or listen to that question. And then two, as women and maybe as men too, we just think I should do this. So we ignore all feedback that we just got from our body. Think I should work harder. I should be a better mom. I should, and
Yeah.
go in what direction. And like you said, it ends up at some point just shutting you down.
Yeah, I remember thinking I'd come home from the longest day, throw the meal together, get the kids fed, and then go, I have to get on the bike. I have to do the workout. Because the only way I'd feel okay in my body was if I got the calorie expenditure. Everything about my self-acceptance was about how my body looked and how many calories I burned and how much exercise I had. And that doesn't feel good. That's not love and respect.
Yeah. I love it that you still do it today. Like, you see the importance of it, but it comes from a place of love versus I should do this.
Yeah.
And I think when people have that, it just changes everything.
Yeah. One thing that I found during the pandemic was when I found myself saying, I got to get on the bike. And it wasn't nice. It was like, I got to get on the bike. And I realized this higher self witnessing that version of me was like, what is that about? And I said to myself, I love the bike. Love a really intense hit ride with EDM music on the Peloton with my trainer telling me all the things I should be doing for hitting my PR, where I'm about to puke and I'm not done and I'm not even looking at the clock or the leaderboard. I'm just zoned in. Like, it is joy. It is joy for me. I feel the same way with like an Orange Theory class. We were talking about that earlier, like the balance or the polarity of getting on the treadmill or on the rower and then going and doing the squats or kettlebells. I mean, all of it. And my heart's about to come out of my chest. And again, I always get to the place, high heart rate that do I want to puke, or am I going to just like suck it up and keep going? And then in a room with people that are like-minded and are just so energized and so excited. So I move because I love to. And if there's ever a time where it's from abuse, because I've definitely been in that pattern with my body, abusing my body, either with food or workouts, that was from a self-deprecating place. That was a complete disregard and dissociation from my worth. Now it's a joy. I even added, if you're in the menopause and you're hearing all the hype about walking and the 10,000 steps, I was resistant to that because I'm like, I already do yoga in the morning and I already work out at night. And sometimes I want to ride the bike. And it's a big time commitment to move how I want to move. And how will I ever add in another modality of walking? And then I realized that's my spiritual time. So when I'm walking without a podcast, without music, I am just with nature and I am receiving all of the love of nature, of the sun, of the animals. And I'm moving my body and I'm walking like a queen and hitting my heels on the ground and grounding and elevating, and it's spiritual. So it is my moving meditation. And now you couldn't take that from me. So it's just a shift in the lens that we look through of what a physical practice can be to deeply honor and respect ourselves. Like, could I give up? I don't watch a lot of TV, but if it was a TV night or scrolling, there's something that people are doing in their day that is not giving them the benefit and gift of a physical practice. Could you give up some of that time to go move your body and allow yourself to feel that total vitality and that big surge of energy and depletion? I mean, when you're think at the end of a class and you're completely done, wiped out, laying down and thinking, I can't move. And then about 4 minutes later, you get up and you're like, oh, I can move. I mean, growth, healing, it happens. And then we get to do it again the next day, show up again.
Absolutely. It's a great feeling when you energize and get to take care of your body for all the right reasons. I think when you feel in alignment, if somebody's feeling burnout or broken, and I know like the asking yourself the question and really listening is a great first step. Any other tips or advice that you would have for that person?
Yeah, I think to surround yourself with people that are doing similar work. If it's spiritual work, find a spiritual coach or community, or if it's emotional, mental, who do you hear that speaks the language that inspires you? And physical community is very big and it's very important to me. I think suffering in isolation is going to elongate the suffering. There's some things you do need to do alone, for sure, the deep, deep healing work. But when you're ready to shift into some of these body practices, get into a space where you can be surrounded with other people that are also pushing their limits, that are also expanding. Because if you're not surrounded by that great expander, we can easily talk ourselves out of it. So others can lift us up. So we want to be mindful of the positive people, positive energy, and that may not be your family. It might not be your close friends. Find that tribe anyway. Go out and keep putting yourself out there and keep surrounding yourself with other people that are expanding. And like great podcasts, great books. Just keep feeding yourself. So it never has to stop. I was at an event and I saw David Goggins speaking, and I think everybody knows his legacy. He's such a legend. And somebody in the audience asked him, once you created Goggins, this alter human persona, do you ever wonder if you'll fall back to the old version of you? And he said, I didn't just create Goggins. I have to create Goggins every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, because I don't wake up as Goggins. I have to create it every day. So where can we go and be inspired by people that have done the and then some, that have gotten to the place that we know we want to go, but maybe we don't have the tools yet, or we just need that inspired next step, that inspired motivation. And I think it's from books and from other people who have done the work, especially if they've done that. Healing isn't linear, so it's not just one straight line. It's up, down, backwards, falling, get up again, sideways. And so we just want to be surrounded by people that, and I did this in business. My first 2 years in business has been incredibly challenging and very expansive. And then I went to an event and I heard all these wildly famous multi-millionaires and billionaires who talked about all the ways that they failed and how much money they lost and how many people sabotaged them. And I'm like, what? You're kidding. Like, it wasn't from the place of like super hype motivation. It was just such a beautiful reality check of like, we're not alone in this. Everyone has the side step or the back step or the fall down, and they keep getting back up.
I love that you brought that up. And honestly, I had no idea that's what you were going to say. But while you were talking, I was thinking even of my own journey. Like that's part of the reason I love Orange Theory is that community for a physical being of just, I think people come to work out for their physical and mental health, but it really is that community piece. And then I think of business of I was in an incredible mastermind for a year and how much that grew, but it
Mhm.
was because of the community. Same thing spiritually. Like for me, it's a church of like, those are my people of just being able to grow.
Yeah.
And you wrap that all up and it really does, it comes back to people.
Yeah. Yeah. We were created with tribe around us, with community around us. And that pandemic really messed that up for us. So it takes a new muscle to go put yourself back out there. And I think an Orange Theory class is a great way to just practice that muscle of meeting somebody new and making eye contact and saying to somebody that just crushed their PR, like, oh my gosh, amazing, well done. And then to receive the feedback and just be in that space, like just practice being human and connecting.
Yeah. I love that because if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'm not in community or that seems too scary. Like, you can do it. It's a muscle that you do. And just pick the one area of life, like you said, which one do you need it the most in?
Yeah. Start there and then expand. Yeah.
Jennifer, I love this conversation. I feel like I can keep asking you so many questions, but as we get ready to wrap up, I would love to hear your one or two favorite books. It doesn't have to be related to what we talked about today, but
Yeah.
just your favorite.
Yeah, I love that you asked this because I am an avid reader and audible book, probably 3 books a week. I am
Mm.
I love the self-help and spirituality and coming home and just being inspired. So my 2 favorite I'll say for today, The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope, which is very much about what we've just talked about, going deep and starting to figure out who are you, and he has great examples of incredible leaders in the space of expansive growth in that book. Also, Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine talks about fight, flight, and freeze and what happens to the body when we're really stuck, and what it is actually from a physiology perspective. If you here's what I see the most in the world since the pandemic is the freeze, just completely stuck, incapable of even moving into like I can't get to an Orange Theory. That's too big of a stretch. I'll just work out at home. Okay, as long as we're moving and breathing, but maybe the next step is to get out to the community. But Peter Levine is a great teacher on trauma. A lot of my old story and my evolution came from unexpressed trauma. So learning that would be one of my second favorite books. But there's a lot. So it's hard to pick two, but those are the two I picked when I saw your questions. And thank you for being such a dynamic hostess with your questions and your prep for today. You're amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I haven't heard of either of those. That's why I'm a pretty avid reader too. Not 3 books a week, but I always ask because again, it expands you because I've never heard of those and I'm going to go check both of them out. So thank you.
Awesome. Let me know how they go.
Okay. I know people are going to want to hear more from you, learn more from you. What's the best way to connect?
I'm on Instagram all the time, posting and connecting and chatting with people. It's at jksyoga _ coaching. My website is jksyoga.com, which also has that daily habits rituals free download. You can get that there. I'm on LinkedIn. My full name is Jennifer Kenny-Smith. If you want to connect there, it's more business stuff that I post there, but at any way, wherever you're at in your life, I'd love to connect.
Perfect. And I'll make sure I put those links in there. And you guys, if you want a really great sheet for your morning rituals, I would highly recommend going to the website and getting that. I printed it yesterday. It's something I'm going to use and really love that.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you all for joining in to Be the Person podcast. Jennifer, I know everybody learns so much from you, so thank you for that. And if this resonated with you, please share it with somebody. As always, it would mean the world if you give us a 5-star review. Thanks for joining today.